class, and they love basketball. Now they get to talk about the thing they love and get paid for it? That's how I feel. I feel like, man, I like it. I use it. I would tell someone about it for free, but you're going to pay me for the thing I do for free? Discount. How many people like a discount? Cross back, everybody. I love discount. Look, I'll shop high end like Neiman Marcus. I'll shop low end like Target, Walmart. I don't care. It's how much money you make, but how much money you keep. I have friends that make $300,000 a year, but if they spend $400,000, they broke at a higher level. So I like a discount, right? On anything. No, the thing is, it's hard to find a lawyer for discount. Like, you can't go to Walmart and see a lawyer on the shelf and it comes me, right? It said, it doesn't work. So I love doing what I do because you can't go anywhere else except come to us. And so the point is that you get a discount off the best firms that money can buy. And it's not your dollar a day, and I'll talk about how much in a minute, but it's that group buying power that allows us to have access to lawyers, even on pre-existing conditions. Because pre-existing conditions are actually covered under the discount. Can you believe that? Because try to get any type of service when it's a pre-existing condition. Like try to get auto insurance when you banged up your car.
Right.
It's hard to say, well, I banged it up and I should have had it, but I can't get it now. Right? The get-go ain't that funny then. Try to get health insurance when you have a pre-existing health condition. That's difficult. They won't even sign you up. Try to get life insurance when you pass away and come back. I'm telling you, it's tough. Oh, I didn't say this. 24-hour access. Y'all are crazy. Y'all behave. We've only got 15 minutes left. All right, so, do you know that things happen outside of office hours? Yeah? Yeah. So what happens when things happen outside of office hours? Because emergencies don't wait for a certain hour. They just happen. Right? And so something happens, let's say, on the weekend, and law offices are typically closed. But you gain access here. This is another thing I really love about our service. Because in emergency situations, you're being questioned, detained, or arrested. You have a right to call, you know this, your Miranda right. Right to remain silent, right to a lawyer. But most people just remain silent because they don't have a lawyer. Right? So I love living in the United States of America, right? It's great freedom. But what good is it being so proud of our Constitution if you can't afford access to it? It's like not having it. And so what happens is, things happen outside of office hours. I'll tell you this last story on the legal plan. I was in San Diego, I was in South Carolina, doing the same presentation, and afterwards went out to what we call a meeting after meeting. We all kind of hang out at a restaurant. So we're at this Mexican restaurant, I'll never forget it, and this guy comes up to me, and he says, Mrs. Self, can I tell you my story? And I said, sure. And he says, my wife and I have a little son, and they're in their 20s, and so they're a young couple, and he says he was playing on a trampoline over a weekend, fell off, got seriously hurt, and he wouldn't stop crying, so we knew he was really hurt, so we rushed him to the hospital there in South Carolina. He said when he was in the emergency area, the trauma area, you know, have the little curtains for those who've been there before, for yourself or a loved one. And he said different people kept moving the curtain, coming back, seeing our son, different people. And so his wife said, can you ask why so many different people coming back to take a look at our son? So the next person that came back through the little curtain, he says, can I ask why so many different people take a look at our son? And so the person says, this looks like it could be a case of child abuse. We're going to have to ask you some further questions. So he says he got so upset. And as he's telling me the story in the Mexican restaurant, you can see the tears in his eyes. And I have kids, so I can tell the emotion that was really brewing up. And so he says, this is how I got so upset. My wife said, calm down, because they're already accusing you of abuse. So he said, he just got up, bless you, and walked down the hallway of the hospital. Do you know you can have legal shield, but forget you actually have it in a situation like that? Right. He said he was so upset he wasn't even thinking about legal shield. He just couldn't believe he was being accused of something he didn't do. But he said after a few minutes he remembered, you know, I have legal shield. Take the card out of his back pocket, which you all have, who already have a membership. For those who don't, when you get it tonight, you'll see. It actually says, if you're being questioned, detained, or arrested, please allow me to call my attorney immediately. And so he says he called the law firm there in South Carolina, got a senior partner on the line. This is on a weekend in the evening. And the partner started to ask him a bunch of questions. Said, no problem, go sit with your wife and your son. I'm going to call the hospital, and we'll see what happens. He said he was sitting with his wife and his son. Maybe 5 minutes went by, he said, and the gentleman came down with a suit. Moved the curtain back, said, Mr. and Mrs. Stevens? He said, yes. He said, I'm one of the administrators here at the hospital. We just heard from your lawyer. We want to apologize. I'm not really sure why the story turned in this direction. Wow. But we're going to treat your son. We're going to take care of him. He said the story completely changed because he had access to legal shield. No, he said, look, here's the serious part here. He said the guy at his job told him about this, his coworker, for 3 weeks in a row. And he kept telling him, you know what, try me next week. He said, let me talk to my wife about it next week. He said he couldn't help but think at that moment, what if he told his coworker 1 more week? He said, what would have happened to my son that night? Where would they have taken him? He said, where would they have taken me? He said, my wife would have been by herself if I didn't have access to this. He said, Mrs. Self, this is more than just having access to lawyers. This is access to peace of mind. And that's what you have access to as well.